masterful. Yeah, what is going on, everybody? I will say, Jordan Klein, 5, and then it was like 4, then it was like 3.5, and then you went 2-1, and it was over. And I don't really know what to do other than talk now. Great introduction, Eric. Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show presented by Prize Picks. I am Eric Lindquist. That is me. Happy Memorial Day, everybody. If you are part of the armed services, my God, thank you so much for everything you've done to afford us to be able to do these shows, to be able to live our lives in freedom. The sacrifice you've made is beyond comprehension, and we appreciate you. Just wanted to start with that, but we continue on. I got my guy, Terry McBride, over here. We get to talk a little baseball because, again, we are fortunate people. How you doing, my dude?
Doing pretty good, buddy. And yeah, I'll definitely echo that. Thank you for your service to everybody out there, all our military members around the world. We appreciate you and everything that you do for us. So yeah, looking forward to diving in. Should be a great way to kick off the week. We've got the loaded schedule split across multiple slates. I think I've got it all in my sheet. So if we hit a game where I don't happen to have it, we'll just talk through it and figure it out as we go. But yeah, it's pretty good. It was a good, successful weekend for me. And saw Top Gun last night, late night. So doing pretty good, man.
My wife worked on that movie 3 years ago. 3 years ago, watched the movie 3 years ago. It's incredible that it's coming out now. But all I've heard is that it's absolutely phenomenal. So I'm going to have to see that here.
It's a total
myself.
Blast.
Yeah, I heard it's
total blast. And it's like, it's all the stuff that you love from the old Top Gun, but this time they did it with like all practical effects. So the guys are actually in the jets in the F-18s, the guys and the girls and everything. It's just these shots that they got are just outrageous. And it was cool, like hearing them talk about that, like through the run up through the press and everything. You get like Miles Teller talking about Tom Cruise and his just insane commitment to the stunts. Yep. Teller would be like, oh yeah, Tom was telling me about how to handle the G's, or Teller would be like, yeah, I landed. And Tom was there saying, no, you got to go again. Or Teller would be like, Tom landed and he came up to me and he's like, yeah, I shot down 11 Russians. And I was like, it's going to be a great movie. And Tom was like, movie? Because that's his insane level of commitment.
I mean, that's a little much for me. I think, come on now. I think at a certain point, you're not actually. That's a conversation for another day. That's a conversation for another day. There's people where I don't think it's completely necessary to every single role that you just like embody the role and you must be the person. I don't know. It's about
Tom Cruise is our greatest living stuntman. I mean, there's no.
That is true. I'm not going to disagree with that. The stuff that a multi-millionaire is putting himself through on the daily making movies, pretty absurd. No doubt about it. Also absurd. Jordan Klein. Hi, buddy. You're mean, but that's okay. I love you anyway. Go follow him at Jordan Klein. Go follow Terry at DigitalB21 on Twitter. And if you feel like it, go follow me at Eric Lindquist. That's C for correct, Eric Lindquist. It's on the screen. You can read. But Terry, we've got 6 games and 6 games in the early and main slate on DraftKings. FanDuel has that one extra Kansas City Cleveland game that exists on the early slate. There's a very early slate on FanDuel. I mean, before we dive in, why does FanDuel hate us and have to have 3 concurrent different slates with tiny payout structures, except for the main slate like everybody else?
Yeah, you'd like to see just 2 slates for the day, maybe with a nice prize on both of them up top. But now FanDuel's got to get greedy a little bit and get those additional fees from us, get that additional rake and separate the early slate into that weird little 3-gamer. So we've got the double header to deal with. It's going to be interesting. And when we hit that point, when we switch slates, I got to switch the pitchers for that doubleheader game. Otherwise, the whole model's not going to break. So I'll do that during a read when we switch up slates.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
FanDuel just doesn't like us.
Well, regardless of what slate you're playing, welcome to the slate, because my God, this first one right out of the gate, Milwaukee at Chicago, 11.5 total runs here. You have 2 pitchers that are making their major league debut, and one of them I like a lot more than the other. I will let you guess which one it is.
So we're doing that game first?
Oh, yeah.
That means I have to switch the pitchers now.
Oh, you do? Oh, sorry.
I had it the other way around. I thought we were doing
we're doing early.
First.
We're doing early, and then we're moving on to late. Because
okay.
Didn't you do a poll? I was told that you did a poll where people, like 75% of people said that they wanted the early and then the late for some reason. Or early and then the main.
That might have been last year. That might be. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the right way to do these shows. I just had set it up differently. Okay. I had set up the other way around.
I am so sorry.
Well, no,
let's flip you around. We'll flip you around, around and 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 around and. I could also do 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 do, mana do 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 do.
There you go. I like that.
How am I doing? Little Muppets action for those who are
stuff.
here up and early. Let's ride. But yeah, Milwaukee -120, Chicago Cubs 11.5 total runs here in this early one. Ethan Small on the mound, and this is a guy that I think if you're a Brewers fan. Freddie Peralta is a big loss, especially pitching is the kind of the way that he was this season. But with his lat injury, you are looking at an opportunity for Ethan Small to come in and make an impact immediately. Over 31 1/3 so far in AAA this season, 1.88 ERA, 1.13 WHIP, 49 strikeouts in that time. I think he is a really good 4K option. And right from the beginning here with a Coors Field slate with the Cubs on the other side of this one, I think Ethan Small, he has some utilities even in this game environment with the wind blowing out in Wrigley. It's going to get freaky, but 15% of Ethan Small, I'm going to be over that.
So the price is definitely right. 4,400, 16-ish%, 15% ownership on that DK slate. I don't love tangling with pitchers, especially you're getting a rookie going into Wrigley Field during the day, wind blowing out, just not the greatest conditions in the world. I agree. I would definitely play him over Mark Leiter. And I do think for that value price on DK, you don't have anybody else in that 4,000 tier. You've got a few, well, I've got a mixed bag of all the different slates here, so I'm not sure which guys are on which slate, but you do have, you know, some other prices that are not that low, but maybe you can get down to where you're not buying 3 bats with the discount. Maybe you're only buying 1 or 2, but it might be worthwhile to explore some of those other options. But yeah, based on the pedigree of the kid, the strikeout rate that he's put up in the minors, I do think there's a little something on the bone there if he can pitch cleanly for a few innings and avoid any trouble with the wind, with the Wrigley weather and just the conditions there. So that would be the primary concern. But 15%, I could see it. I don't know that I would get there necessarily. It would depend on a lot of how the other stacks are coming together, what bats I'm getting to with that discount, but I could see being around that number somewhere.
All right. And you said Mark Leiter. I think the starter that I'm looking at here for today is Matt Swarmer, also making his MLB debut, starting right out of the bat. Iowa Cubs, shout out. Des Moines, Iowa. What's going on, everybody? 0.95 whip this season through, how many starts is that? 9 total games, but 5 starts. So he's started to get lengthened out here a little bit. It's his second year here at AAA with the Iowa Cubs. He had been with them in 2017. Kind of lost a little bit of stuff. 2019 showed back up again, actually. So you're there. 27 games appeared, 25 that he started there. It looks like his results have just gotten infinitely better over the course of the last 2 years at that level. But with the wind blowing out here in Wrigley, not a ton of strikeout stuff from what it appears. I don't know if I want to tangle with it. Do you?
Yeah, this dude looks like a quad A type pitcher to me. I don't admittedly don't know much about him, but he's a non-graded prospect, 28 years old, has never pitched in the majors before. So I'm thinking quad A type player. A lot of experience in the minors, certainly. You know, he's pitched for a number of years, been in the system since 2016. I don't see very much here. I don't see very much reason to consider him.
Yeah,
so I did. Yeah, I had it as Mark Leiter, but it looked like they changed that up with the doubleheader.
Yep, fun times. Ethan Small, I'm going to have some shares of, that's for sure. It's a pitcher long-term. It's not a Freddie Peralta 1-for-1 by any means, but it's a young prospect that you keep hearing about. You know he's getting called up here and has an opportunity to make an impact and win a rotational spot here right off the bat. Drafted in 2019, first rounder, the pedigree's there, the arm talent. Shout out to anybody who likes that word. There you go. He's got some of it. So whoop-de-doo, let's go. He's 4K on DraftKings. I'm going to have some. Let's just be serious. But
it makes sense. And you're talking about going up against a terrible lineup in the Cubbies too. Like we shouldn't leave that out of the equation. As bad as the weather conditions might be, the lineup is definitely not the greatest in the world. So it's definitely an interesting spot, at least based on the price.
Tony Cochran. I lived and worked in Des Moines 2006 to 2012. I went to Iowa State from 2006 to 2011. So there you go. Shout out Iowa State, my alma mater. Look at that. Redshirted 1 year, hit a golf ball reasonably terrible over the course of my tenure there. But yay, it was a beautiful time. Ames, Iowa. Also, my dog is from Ames, Iowa. So good things do happen there. Let's continue to the bats here. And it's a massive talking point. You've got a rookie on both sides of the mound. You've got major league debuts on both sides of the mound here. But the Milwaukee side, I think offensively, with good reason, is one that I'm much more focused on than the Cubs side. How do you feel about this Milwaukee team at their current ownership?
They're both sides of this are a little high in terms of the ownership. The Milwaukee side is definitely a little high in terms of the ownership. Everybody blasting through the 25% range from 1 through 7 in this lineup. Even Jace Peterson down the bottom of the lineup hitting 21% in the projected. I think this might have come out actually the confirmed version of the lineup, so I can drop those in. But yeah, it's just a spot where I think I'd be looking to get a little bit different from the field. I get why people would be going there. I do think it makes some sense. Grab some bats against a very limited quad A type of a pitcher. If you're talking about the Brewers side of things, play the conditions. The prices are fine. Hitters like Colton Wong, Luis Urias, Christian Yelich, Andrew McCutchen, Rowdy Tellez, certainly with all his power. All those guys are viable. It's just what are you putting them together with to get yourself different enough from the field? I do think there are good reasons to go there, but I'd be looking to undercut those public numbers pretty aggressively.
Yeah, it's pretty aggressive. I'm not going to lie. It's a Wrigley spot with the wind blowing out. We've seen this just home run fest 2022. We've seen this for years and years and years if you played MLB DFS, and we've seen it even this season. More so, the major win game was kind of a standalone slate earlier this season. I'm trying to remember who was on the other side of that. Who hit the triple dong game? Josh Rojas had the triple dong game when it was blowing 30 out. That was absurd. Those are his 3 home runs for the season. Fun fact. But here we go. Jace Peterson is sub 20%. That's the only bat in the lineup probably that's going to end up there. Keston Hiura starting to show up a little bit more prominently now. He's put up double-digit fantasy outings in 5 of his last 7. His strikeout numbers had been off the charts again. He just was swinging and missing at everything. If he makes contact, it's always been a hitter that I've been enthusiastic about. So might find paths to be overweight to him. 534 expected slugging on the season here. That is second best on this baseball team. Pretty surprising to see. On the other side, though, Chicago Cubs, we have Christopher Morel, who's been a talking point, speed power type combo, or not really power, 468 expected slugging, but definitely going to be as the leadoff man viable here in this spot. Wilson Contreras from a catching option. Up and down this lineup, not the most enthusiastic. Clint Frazier, welcome back, but how are you feeling about the Cubs here at their insane ownership?
Yeah, the ownership is pretty nuts. It's definitely up there on the FanDuel slate. Basically, everybody going up over double digits. On DK, you do get some discounts on ownership around Ian Happ, Frank Schwindel up toward the top of the lineup. Again, I have to jump back over to the confirmed lineup and see who's actually in it. So no Happ. We do have Frank Schwindel in there. So take Happ out of the equation. That's my favorite bat in that lineup most days. Wilson Contreras is owned by a quarter of the field at catcher on DK for 4,900, 17%, even where you don't need catchers on the FanDuel slate. I just don't love it. It's really not a great spot in terms of this lineup going up against the better of these pitchers. Yeah, you can play the conditions. You can grab some of the righties, throw them against the lefty here. I don't hate the idea of getting to a Schwindel, Patrick Wisdom, and maybe either Morel or Clint Frazier, something like that as a 3-man. I would skip over Wilson Contreras. As good as he is, that 25% ownership is just crushing it at 4,900. So I don't love that. I would shop around probably for a different catcher on the DK slate. Maybe you grab some 3-mans from the Cubbies, but not my favorite target. Bad lineup.
You better shop around, shop around.
Are we doing like local California promo?
If you ask some girl for a hand now. I need that for Jordan. Jordan looks like he's seen a ghost. He's seen a ghost. He's not okay. Are you okay? All right, baby. We'll be okay. Milwaukee and Chicago will be playing later in the day, so Hap probably show back up in the lineup. Yeah. I will say there's some strategy, and we'll get to it a little bit later. I hope this first game, this Milwaukee-Chicago game, goes as long as humanly possible for game theory purposes, because people will be looking at the wrong projected lineups at places, and just know that a guy like Hap probably going to be showing up in the lineup the second time around. It's just 4,700 on the next slate. We'll get to it, but definitely some game theory to have there. Important spot. I will have some Ethan Small. Really have no interest on the other side of that in the other pitcher that we talked about. And offenses here are going to be insanely popular, but a little bit more so than Milwaukee side that's popular. Try to find ways to get different with the back half of the lineup. Anything else you want to talk about in this game?
Just another thing to throw on the fire as far as Swarmer goes, a 5.3% home run rate at AAA last season. So as a 27-year-old pitching at AAA. So that is something to target with those Brewers bats. Could be a nice home run opportunity for Rowdy Tellez today.
All right. If you're playing cash, you're playing a lot of these guys, and then you're probably playing Miami
absolutely.
bats, and then you're moving on with your day. Probably going and having a burger and a beer and enjoying your life. Happy Memorial Day. But J187 DFS, $25 super chat, another $8,500 day yesterday. Congratulations. We love seeing that. That's fantastic. Terry, nice win on FanDuel, he says. Eric loved the Muppets reference. So your thing was really cool. My thing was less cool. But what the hell? You'll want to get on FanDuel? Is this just a day ending in Y for you now?
Yeah, I mean, it was the afternoon slate yesterday. And, I technically it was first, second, and fifth, but, who's going to quibble?
Oh, we're going to do that, are we?
Oh, we're going to do that. With a different pitcher on the first and the second place lineup, different stacks. Dominated, won by like 20 points over my second place lineup. Yeah, crushed it.
Won by 20 over yourself. That's the DFS
thing, man. I really can't. I sound so insincere when I try and brag.
Yeah. Well, then we'll just keep talking baseball. We're one game through.
Let's talk baseball. I got lucky.
Yeah. We're one game through. We'll get flying here. We got an hour to get 12 games in before Jordan Klein probably starts being like, I got the beach. I got ladies to tend to. I got things to do. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I hope he does. Minnesota minus 155 at Detroit. 8.5 total runs here. Dylan Bundy. Mo Brisky, go Tigers. On the other side, 13.6% K percentage. He's not very good. We'll talk Twins bats in a second. But first, Dylan Bundy, any righty on the mound going up against this Detroit Tigers team, I'm going to have interest in. Do you have interest in Dylan Bundy today?
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was a different righty, but we'll take what we get. It's just a team that we're going to be targeting all year long. It's basically, target the A's, target the Tigers. These are the teams we can go after. So far this year, Detroit against righties, a 101 ISO is 30th in baseball, a 25.9% strikeout rate is 29th, a WRC plus sitting at 68 is dead last in baseball, 32% worse than average creating runs, 26 ranked 1.98% home run rate. Even with Dylan Bundy, we can fire away here. Bundy, obviously, not the guy that we thought he might have been in dynasty drafts 10 years ago or whenever that was. Pitching to a 21.7% strikeout rate this year, a 3.67 xFIP, inducing a nice 11.3% swinging strike rate. He's a fine, average, reasonably good pitcher. He's not a superstar. He's not going to come out and strike out the world. But against this team, at 7,500 on that weird FanDuel slate where he's pulling 50% ownership, I think it makes sense to, maybe not get to 50%, but it makes sense to have him in a lot of your lineups. At 9,500, it's uncomfortable to pay that price with 30% of the field going to him on DK, but I just think the matchup makes so much sense. It's the right spot to go to. So I think, at or around the field on the DK slate is probably appropriate there.
Yeah, anything that isn't named Framber Valdez, I'm pretty much not worried about ownership. So I think it's something where we need to be pretty conscious of how you're putting together a Framber Valdez lineup with some of the chalkier offenses. But, we're going to have plenty of time. We're not doing this right up until lock of the early slate. You're going to have plenty of time to be able to piece it together, but be paying attention because that's going to be a tough, uncomfortable type build if you're going Milwaukee, Cubs, Miami, and trying to put Valdez into lineup. So I'm more inclined to go overweight to a 9,500 Dylan Bundy. We have some cheap options all over the board, and I'm not too concerned about being able to accomplish that. So looking at the top two pitcher percentage, he's second best on the board for DK purposes. Over on FanDuel, I guess they broke these slates up so weird that I don't even know how to comprehend everything that's going on. So I'm primarily playing DK, and that's just going to be the way that I rock with it. But on the other side of this one, Bo Brisky is not good at throwing baseballs. I'm assuming, though, there's going to be positive leverage. Look at that. There is. I don't really want to be tangling too much. If you're hand building, 10 lineups, I doubt he makes one in that regard. If you're banking 150, I think just about every pitcher on the board is going to be showing up. Even this Ryan Feltner character, who Awesemo projections absolutely love, and I'm excited to talk about pitchers in that one. But what's your interest level, if any, for Bo Brisky?
Yeah, even in 150, I don't know that I'd have any.
Cool. That's a great. Yeah.
5.3. I really don't care about the leverage on a pitcher that's this bad. I think this is just a guy who's going to get tattooed. He's got a 13.6% strikeout rate. So even a good game from him, what are we talking about? Right? He's not going to go out there and rack up a bunch of points for you, or it's very unlikely. Let's put it that way. 11.8% barrel rate, 42.2% hard hit, a 5.30 home run rate, a 5.04 ERA, a 6.1% swinging strike rate, a 20% CSW percentage. These are all reasons to target bats here and just avoid the pitcher. Out of everybody, even the course pitchers, I think this would be the guy I would leave on the table quickest.
Yeah, I probably am with you. try to say a lot where it's like, what do you get when you get them right? And then if you play Bo Brisky today, you're basically hoping other pitchers on this slate fail. At least the guys in his range, you're hoping everybody fails. That seems like an unlikely investment. Plus, if you're winning your tournaments with your stacks, which today you for damn sure are, I feel like we're going to get away from any kind of a thin play like a Bo Brisky and just kind of making him a write-off, not having him filter into your 150, probably an all right way to do it. So I don't hate that at all. I also don't hate the Minnesota offense, considering they're basically flat leverage on DK today, right around a 9.4% top stack potential. You have the aforementioned Milwaukee, Miami, Chicago lineups that are all negatively leveraged and all more popular and all have a better chance of top stack percentage. But you said Bo Brisky's just so bad in this lineup with Buxton. As long as he's leading off here, as long as we see him leading off in whenever this lineup comes out, I'm just fine firing them up at will. How do you feel about the Minnesota Twins?
Yeah, I like that spot. I think it's definitely something you can target taking advantage of Brisky. If you're looking at the top stacks tool, as you go down it, they're ranked 4th, but the probability is roughly the same as what the Cubbies have in 3rd. It's not that far off of the 2nd ranked Marlins in cores. It's well behind the Brewers, who are by far the top. They're at 20% probability of being the top stack. Just that's how good that matchup is. But when you look at the ownership share, the Twins are coming in at an 8.6 collective ownership share, where even the 3rd ranked Cubs are at 14.6. So you're talking about essentially half the ownership on the Twins as those top 3 ranked teams. So at that point, yeah, the leverage is negative 1.1 technically, because it is counting for some of the value. The Cubbies are much more affordable. The Brewers are much more affordable than these Twins are, but these Twins are in an equally good spot for upside of offense, and they're getting much less owned. So Buxton is drawing most of the attention up at the top. He's skewing the numbers even further. It immediately drops into the single digits on DK for everybody who's not named Buxton or Carlos Correa. Correa is only sitting at 11.5%. That's perfectly fine. You can stack Twins together and include Buxton without really sweating the ownership or the leverage. On FanDuel, it's a little bit different because it's a 3-game slate over there. So they're getting a ton of ownership. Buxton's over 50%. Correa's over 30%. Polanco's over 23%. Gary Sanchez sitting kind of on his own, just 8.6% in the middle of that lineup. I always like to get to Gary as a power bat, kind of sneaky. People just tend not to play good hitting catchers on FanDuel. So maybe you start with him. You work in like a Larnack, a Garlick, depending on what comes out in the lineup. There are ways to offset some of that weight of ownership, but I think I'd be looking to get different on FanDuel, where I'd be looking to exploit this stack on the DK slate. And yeah, really, I'm probably just not going to play the 3-game FanDuel slate because I don't think it's that interesting.
Maybe you want to take your talents to South Beach, or in this case, DraftKings.
DraftKings over South Beach probably in that equation. Yeah.
South Beach, well, there you go. Cleveland, definitely Terry McBride's scene. That's what he's about. He's about Cleveland.
Man. Weddings in Cleveland. Anytime you can have a big wedding reception, and then there's also a casino attached to the same building, and I can go play blackjack and poker the rest of the night while I'm wedding drunk, sign me up. And that's what I got in Cleveland. So yes.
While I'm wedding drunk, I've never thought about wedding drunk and how it's in its own classification.
Wedding drunk is a totally different kind of drunk than just your random Friday night Taiwan on. Come on.
What's it between? What's wedding drunk between?
Wedding drunk is, it's like well above sitting home alone on a Friday night, just pounding beers. That's, we've got that. Okay. I'd say it's like, yeah, outside of like, I just won $1 million and we're all out partying drunk. It's probably like that next level, because it's a huge party. You're with like all family and friends. Everybody's getting loaded. Everybody's tying one on. You're typically getting free drinks unless your friend's really sucking. It's a cash bar, right? So you're getting whatever your drink choice is to get your drunkest, your fastest. For me, wedding drink was always Jack and Coke, and then just switching over directly to straight Jack, straight whiskey.
Terry McBride gonna take over Jennifer Lopez, the wedding planner too.
What did Terry, remember, Eric, what did Terry say? He was getting busted up in Cleveland or something? What was he?
Getting busted? He got busted in Cleveland was the exact
busted
quote.
Up, or did I say banged
busted
up?
Or banged
up.
It was
banged up.
He got banged up in Cleveland.
Banged up is one of my go-tos.
Man, should we just end the stream there? I don't know if it can get better. I don't know if it can get better over the course of the next 10 games, but we'll try.
That could have gotten better. My girlfriend at the time didn't come with me out to Cleveland to the wedding, and a bridesmaid was all over me that whole night, but I had to be good, unfortunately. And now I'm not with the girlfriend years later anymore, so like wasted opportunity.
Have you hit up the bridesmaid since then?
Yeah. I mean, not since we broke up, but we've crossed paths since then.
Terry McBride. Oh my God. I'm here to wingman this and facilitate things. I didn't know you got busted up and you could have nutted up in Cleveland too, but you didn't. But you didn't because you're a good human being. Wow. This morning took an exciting turn. I now see that Cleveland. I mean, if you find a fine lady that comes in, there's no way they're from Cleveland. But
she actually came out from New York with most of the fun people at the wedding.
I know things. Detroit, 3.8 implied runs. How do we even go to this? How do I even talk about Detroit after all of this? I mean, look at this lineup. It is trash. I don't like it at all. But Spencer Torkelson batting 5th now, moving up here with the absence of Miguel Cabrera in it. Oh my Lord. It is so nauseating looking at it. I guess yay, Heimer Candelario for getting on the board yesterday. Hit a homer, still batting under 200, but talk to me about the Tigers.
The 2 through 5 hitters in this lineup are all under the Mendoza line, as is the 7 hitters. So far, I just find that hilarious. I don't really care about batting average, but if we're just being traditional about things, 4 hitters in a row from 2 through 5, all hitting under 200 over, each over 150 plate appearances. That is really bad. Not a ton of power to speak of. Everybody's ISO on the team in this lineup below 150. Everybody except for Harold Castro, who's only made 83 plate appearances, creating runs well below average. And I'm talking like way below. Like Jonathan Scope, for example, has a 44 WRC plus over 179 plate appearances. That's really, really bad. 152 plate appearances for Javi Baez, 57 WRC plus. Candelario, 169, 70 WRC plus. That means he's 30% worse than average creating runs, guys. This is just a bad baseball team. They're very, very cheap. They're going up against Dylan Bundy. There are some reasons to maybe grab some Tiger stacks here and throw them against that ownership on Dylan Bundy. Just don't have high expectations for it. You can put them together with basically anything you want because of how cheap they are. I'd be looking to probably grab Harold Castro, Scope, Javi Baez, maybe Torkelson. Maybe Daz Cameron is sneaky for the dead minimum price if you need somebody even cheaper than everyone in this lineup. Hasn't shown much at the major league level, but a mid-range power, like 15 home run, 25 steal type of a prospect, kind of like what his dad was in the major, Mike Cameron. But he hasn't shown that level of ability. So I'm not really looking for much out of these Tigers. Maybe some hedge stacks just going up against that weight of Bundy ownership. You're muted.
God damn it. Are you serious? Seriously? Whatever. I had things I was doing.
Dynamite producing by Jordan there to cue me in that you didn't know. And
Jordan Lockhart, $50 super chat on a nice Monday Memorial Day morning. Hey, Eric. Hey, Terry. What up at Jordan Klein, my dudes? My dude, my God, just a $50 super chat out of the middle of nowhere. You're out of your mind. Just keep crushing. Crush like Terry does Cleveland, Ohio. That is what I think you need to continue to do. Man, good Lord. Everybody, I'm glad you enjoyed that. Yes, hit the like button for my ridiculousness and incapability to realize I was on mute for 5 minutes, but all right. Thanks for all sticking here. Hopefully we didn't lose any viewership, but Terry, the expert troll Terry, this might be Terry's greatest show of all time. This might be. Right. This might be. We're 30 minutes in. We've only talked 2 baseball games. We probably need to speed it up at this point because Jordan Klein will start to get ornery. He's smiling now. He might not be smiling in an hour. We'll see. All right. We're going to go as long as it needs to. Fuck it. We'll do it live. San Diego Padres, 4.2 implied runs at St. Louis Cardinals, 4.3. Nick Martinez. And then I always think of Packy Naughton. He sounds like Thomas Shelby. He sounds like a character from like Downton Abbey or what's that show that I was just doing from Netflix? The one with all the Irish guys. Thomas Shelby. Thank you. Peaky Blinders.
Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, there it is. Doesn't that sound like Packy Naughton?
He does. Okay. What jumped out the first time I saw the name, I was just immediately thought like 1880s baseball. I thought of Mr. Burns's baseball team from the softball episode. Remember when he wanted to get Mordecai Brown and Mordecai Three Finger Brown, Cap Anson. Smithers had to tell him all those players had been dead for 100 years. So yeah, that's what Packy Naughton is to me. I think I'd rather play the corpse of Mordecai Three Finger Brown than Packy Naughton on most days. I don't think a ton of this Padres offense on the other side. So maybe at price, if you wanted to go discount dandy, 5,700 on the DK slate, 56 on FanDuel, not drawing a ton of ownership. I don't love it. 5.26% home run rate, a 21% strikeout rate over 9 1/3 innings, one start so far this year. Going back to last year, 11% strikeouts over 22 2/3 and 5 starts. Not a great pitcher.
No, not great at all. Not good. No bueno. Nick Martinez, 24.6% K percentage. That's useful. You know what else is not useful? Everything else that he does. 10.8% walk percentage, 465 expected slugging. He's a guy, though, on a 6-game slate, you at least have to consider, and I would rather roster him than Bo Brisky, but so would the field. I would rather roster him than Paul Blackburn, I guess, is kind of a toss-up for me, but I'm probably going to go to Nick Martinez. I mean, the nicest thing we can say is that thank God he's not a lefty, right? Because if he was a lefty against the St. Louis team, you're dead. But what are we looking at doing with Nick Martinez on today's slate?
Yeah, I think he's at least an interesting leverage point on this slate. Looks like we're getting a nice little positive leverage score on him on this DK early slate as we sort here. He's around 10% owned by the field, so really not all that much ownership compared to his top 2 percentage. The value score is okay. So I do think we can get away with some Nick Martinez here, which is going to be rare to hear from me this season. I don't really believe in the pitcher. 24.6% strikeout rate is nice, but he walks way too many at 10.8%, putting on a 1.36 whip. The CSW, the swinging strike rate are fine. Inducing a 12.5% swinging is great, but 42.1% hard hit, 11.2% barrels. There's a lot of concern around that. He's managed to keep it to a 3.59% home run rate. I expect that's going to go up. The ERA and the XFIP are somewhat in line, 3.75 XFIP, 3.86 ERA. I expect those are going to go up as well. But I think in this spot on this slate, you can get away with it. Like you said, at least he's not left-handed. St. Louis just absolutely murders lefties. They've gotten a little bit better so far against righties. And what they do really well against righties is limit strikeouts. Second best in baseball in the split, 18.4% strikeout rate. That's a little bit concerning here because what we're looking for Martinez is to just rack up a few strikeouts, even if he takes some bumps. St. Louis also very good, 12% above average creating runs against righties. It's just the power that's been absent. Now they added your pal, who you were referring to as Nick Gorman yesterday. His name is Nolan Gorman.
Nolan Gorman.
Yeah,
I was making a joke.
Of course.
Like gourmand.
That's what it was. He's a gourmand.
It's Nolan Gorman. It's just a white dude, but I was trying to kind of flare it up. But you know what?
Yeah, I like that.
Sorry for having fun. I'll never do it again. How dare I?
He hits the ball very hard from the left side of the plate. So, we'll see what happens in terms of their ability against righties going forward. But it's not the greatest spot in the world, but I think slate, leverage, et cetera, I think it is worth grabbing some shares. You can get over that field, that 10% of the field pretty easily on Nick Martinez here.
Yeah, and you're going to have positive leverage on any stack that we haven't talked about or that I didn't say the name of that were Cubs, Miami, Milwaukee. So, I have some interest in stacking up St. Louis. I have some interest in stacking up San Diego on the other side of this one as well, because Packy Naughton sure does not scare me. How do you feel about this lineup that gets Manny Machado back in the fray?
Yeah, it's still a team that I just don't really like all that much. I don't get to the Padres a ton. I don't go out of my way to attack them, but I never mind getting pitchers against them. They're decidedly average in a lot of things against, let's see, pull up the matchup here against lefties this season. 151 team ISO is 15th in baseball. A 321% home run rate is 11th. They're 10th in strikeout rate, 10th in WRC plus. So they've been fine. They've been a little bit above average creating runs. There's just not a ton of pop in this lineup. Not a lot of hitters I really truly believe in. Like some of that has Eric Hosmer's early season great performance baked into it. Some of it has Jerkson Profar's early season performance baked into it. Profar especially has just come rocketing back to earth after a pretty hot start. So I just don't believe in a lot while Fernando Tatis is not in this lineup. I can grab shares of Manny, but he's owned 15% for a very high price on DK. He's owned 35% for a $4,100 salary on FanDuel. Ugh, don't love that. If you want to go like Will Myers, maybe some Luke Voigt in there, Voigt 2,600 for all his flaws. I think there is enough power in Luke Voigt's bat at 2,600 and 4.8% ownership that you can maybe get something out of it against this pitcher here. So maybe grab some of the power righties out of that lineup, but it's not my preferred stack, not a prime target.
Yeah, and on DK, you can't stack up two of the best hitters in the lineup. You can't stack up the 3-4 hitters in Hosmer and Voigt. So it sucks in that regard. You get the double first base, no other eligibility for them. So you're basically forced into an 8-player build. And some of these guys are just not good major league hitters. I mean, even Sung Kim, who's had moments, has just a 25.7% hard hit percentage. Hey, Sung Kim. So that's a brutal type number to be looking at. Trent Grisham got bit by the regression bug hard here this season, is what it is. St. Louis, we kind of talked about. You play the hits there. They have a lot of opportunities, one through every person. I never roster Corey Dickerson. That's the one guy probably even from the left side won't get to. But this Brendan Donovan character doesn't seem like much, but just another lefty maybe thrown into the fray. Anything that sticks out to you specifically for St. Louis?
The numbers don't support it at all with what he's done this season. 26% hard hit rate. Yeah, you know what? I think I just talked myself out of it. I was going to say I would throw a couple shares of Corey Dickerson into the mix at 2,100 against a righty who's not a great righty, gives up some contact, but yeah, there's just not been anything there in terms of contact for Corey Dickerson this year. Last year, only 6 home runs, a 137 ISO over 365 plate appearances. I was honestly expecting to see a little bit bigger numbers for him from last year's sample. I knew he was struggling this year, but yeah, I think I'm out on the Dickerson model. So yeah, we're talking about, like you said, play the hits, top 5, nice and easy.
All right, everybody. If you want to smash the DFS streets like Terry smashes bridesmaids in Cleveland, head to Awesemo Plus. Get all of the tools and content that we have here behind the paywall using promo code MLB Strategy Show. All caps, one word, MLB Strategy Show for 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. $18.95 for the weekly pass. Take advantage of that promotion now. Again, 50% off your first month to get everything, not just MLB, but NBA, PGA, NASCAR, esports. We have tennis projections. We have soccer projections. We have everything you could possibly want. If they have DFS contests for it, we have content for it. That's Lofty's line. I stole it. He'll probably allow me to. But MLB Strategy Show, that is the promo code. Use it, know it, love it. Join Awesemo Plus today. Stop guessing, start winning. All right, 3 more games here to cover in the early slate. We continue on, my friend. This is Terry's greatest show. We keep it going. San Francisco, 4.3 implied runs. Philadelphia Phillies, 4.2. Logan Webb, Kyle Gibson, 2 serviceable pitchers on the mound here. It's just a 6-game early slate. I got to figure that we've got some interest in both of these guys. They're both negatively leveraged. So I will just ask you this. Which one of the 2 do you prefer to roster today?
Which one of the 2 between Logan Webb and Kyle Gibson do I prefer to roster? I think that's always going to be Logan Webb. Just
I would hope so.
Alone. Yeah.
It's
and the struggles are real this year in terms of the strikeout rate. 18% strikeout rate down from 26.5% last year. And it's a growing sample, 53 and a third innings over 9 starts now. That's a little bit concerning. The swinging strikes are down, the CSW is down, but everything else is kind of right in line with what he was last year. The hard hit numbers are fine, and they're actually slightly improved, 37.3% hard hit versus a 38.8 last year, 4.2% barrel rate this year, 5.6% last year. Home run rate has dropped from a already stellar 1.51 to a 0.90. His ERA is 3.54. His xFIP is 3.51. His walk rate is the same. It's only the strikeouts that have disappeared for Logan Webb so far. So I think against a Philly lineup that can certainly strike out against anybody, I definitely think he's the better answer to that question in the heads up matchup. And I do expect him to find those strikeouts eventually, just on the fact that everything's kind of working the same as it was. I think he'll get back to that pitch mix that he had last year. He'll find it eventually and find those strikeouts. Against righties, Philly 21st ranked, 23.4% strikeout rate, actually 1% below average, ranked 20th creating runs against righties. A 3.01% home run rate is good. A 150 ISO is exactly 15th in baseball. They're another team much better for power, much better for runs against lefties, but they strike out against anybody. So Webb could have a nice little start here. 32.5% ownership. That's fine to get Logan Webb at 7,900 on that DK slate. He's owned 13% of the time. I think you can get over that on the FanDuel slate for 9,200 if you want it.
Yeah, I'm with you. FanDuel slate, fire it up at will here. Gibson, fine. But I also do have some interest in bats. There's a lot of good offenses on this slate. And if we're going to hope some of these more popular offenses fail, the likes of this Coors Field game, the Cubs-Milwaukee game, and with the wind blowing out in Wrigley. I don't mind getting to this San Francisco offense with all of these lefties, specifically Jock Peterson, Mike Yastrzemski. Brandon Crawford's regressed in a pretty meaningful way. It sucks not to have Brandon Belt out there. Tommy La Stella is all right with his 538 expected slugging so far in a short sample size. He'll continue to accumulate that here, but how are we feeling about the Giants and trying to have them be an offense that can bypass some of these more popular chalky ones that are in better spots? But I mean, San Francisco, I feel like they bring a lot of pop to the table still.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're the highest ranked team, I believe, on the stacks board that also has positive leverage as you go down the DK stacks board. So it's definitely a good spot. You're throwing it against not the most popular pitcher on the field, but somebody definitely who is drawing, a quarter of the ownership on the pitching slate. So I think it's a great spot to grab some bats. And I tell you, there's some cheap prices on some bats that I like Luis Gonzalez. Is he 2K on this slate, or am I seeing a price from a different slate?
He got sent down to AAA because they brought back Tommy La Stella, and then I can't remember who the transition was. Brandon Belt went out. Austin Slater, yeah. Lamonte Wade is on IL as well. Duggar's on IL, so they just needed another outfield bat. So yeah, he's flat 2K now.
Yeah, so I really like that opportunity. Over 103 plate appearances this year, 326, 369, 457, creating runs 35% better than average, 2 home runs, 3 stolen bases. That's a sneaky little min-price play from the left side of the plate from late in that lineup. Put him together with some of the guys that you name, the Jock Petersons, the Evan Longorias, the Wilmer Floreses of the world in the middle. Certainly Tommy La Stella and Mike Yastrzemski give you a lot to work with up top. I really like La Stella in terms of putting the ball in play. He's very, very good at that. Pretty good usually at getting on base and setting the table as a correlation piece going into a hitter like Yaz. So definitely Yaz this year, 44.6% hard hit, 10.9% barrel rate, 4 home runs, slashing 298, 404, 479, creating runs 54% better than average. Yeah, there's a lot of hitters you can string together who are above average for run creation in this lineup, going up against a pitcher who Gibson doesn't tend to yield a ton of home runs, but it's not impossible to sequence against him. It's not impossible to create runs against him. So that's kind of what we're attacking here.
And Phillies on the other side, you have 2 popular pitchers in this game, so there's going to be leverage just getting to these stacks as a result of that. Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos seem like a pretty good trio of bats to be putting up against him. Rhys Hoskins, JT Realmuto. This is an offense I think that's always viable. I'm not that enthusiastic going up against Logan Webb. Looks like they're about appropriately owned, but what is your game plan for Philly, if any, today?
Yeah, it's not the greatest spot in terms of going up against Webb. Like we talked about, his strikeouts are down this year, so maybe they get bat on ball a little bit more than you might normally expect, or like they would have last year against him. But he's so good at sucking the power out of a lineup that I really am limited in my interest in Philly here. I'm getting half of the magic number for the top hitters. Like Kyle Schwarber in my home run model is sitting at a 5.56, with the 10 being that magic number of having an above average chance. He's the highest in my home run model from Philly. Yeah. What I do like is the fact that there's no ownership on hitters like Alec Boehm, like Nicky Castellanos, like Rhys Hoskins. Harper's drawing a little bit at 12% for 5,800. Kyle Schwarber's drawing a little bit at 4,400, but under 10% on the DK slate. They're a little bit more popular, those 2 hitters on the FanDuel slate. But I think judging just by the popularity, you can string together bats, get ahead of the field. And again, I think it's a situation where we're hoping more for sequencing than we are for that home run upside, just given what the pitcher typically does. A 0.90% home run rate is very, very good over 53 and a third innings. So don't expect a ton of power. Don't expect a lot of runs. But if it's a low scoring kind of a slate, you could get that sequencing, maybe you get into the bullpen, find some runs there, but I don't love it, but I'd probably look to be over the field.
Sean Marshall, who's the 2K guy in San Francisco you like? That was Luis Gonzalez. That was the guy who just got recalled after a million injuries there to the San Francisco side. But yeah, that was the one that Terry was talking about. We have, what was the other thing that I just missed? Stephen Leibowitz, Eric Lindquist, the worst visual ever for us. Watching Terry smash in Cleveland would be an enjoyable experience for everybody. Maybe not like the actual smashing, but like at least I want to see him put the game down. I want to see him get down with his bad self.
Yeah, you want to be like, you guys are hanging out, having drinks over in the corner of the bar, like, hey, look, he's talking to see what, and then like I leave, come back, like,
all right, you just said that like 40-year-old
6-7 hours later, and I'm just like, hey, high fives all around.
Yeah,
like a bag of sand.
So good. But yeah, then somebody else said that I love Eric in basketball. He's grown on me in baseball. You're welcome. growing like a herpy on the side of your lip. Let's keep it going, shall we? We've got Houston Astros, 4 implied runs. Oakland Athletics, 3 implied runs. Framber Valdez, oh boy. He is so popular. It is unbelievable. Well, actually, no, it's very believable because in the landscape of this slate, he by far makes the most sense. Going up against Oakland, they're just an abysmal offense in every single sense of the word. And this guy, negative 4.3 degree launch angle in terms of launch for this season. Balls are going straight into the ground. He's limiting hard contact. He has just a 19% K percentage, but if he goes 7 innings, which is very, very likely in this type of a situation, who really cares? How much Framber Valdez are you expecting that people should be landing on today?
Boy, this is a great spot. That is just an awful ownership situation, though. He's 8,700 on that DK slate. He's pulling 2/3 of the field, 66% ownership. That'll probably go up. He'll crack 70 on this slate in this matchup. The matchup is spectacular. Like you said, this Oakland team is bad. 137 team ISO, a 23% strikeout rate, a 1.84% home run rate against a guy that everything just goes directly into the ground against him. A negative 4.3 average launch angle this year. Last year, negative 5.5 degree average launch angle, had a 70% ground ball rate. That is absurd. I'm sure he's in that territory again this year. 0.88% home run rate, 3.24 xFIP for him, 2.83 ERA, striking out 19% of hitters. He's not a strikeout pitcher. He's spiked up here and there over time. If you catch him on that right day where he finds 6-7 strikeouts, you typically get a nice performance where he's gone deep into the game, takes no damage, and has that bonus. He could do that against this team. I wouldn't be totally shocked to see him put up a nice, healthy 6-7 strikeout type of a performance, even though that's not really his character. I just hate the ownership situation. I would be looking to find other pitchers to roster. I would have a lot of Framber, but I don't think I would be approaching 66% on DK. I don't think I would be approaching 40% for 10-5 on FanDuel. I would maybe be 25% at that 10-5 price on FanDuel. That seems about right. And it's rare that I get much over 25% when we've got at least a handful of pitchers to choose from. If it's one of these slates where we've got an apex Jake DeGrom level starter and then a bunch of Ryan Feltners and Paul Blackburns and Bo Briskys, then yeah, I'll load up on those DeGrom shares and lock it in as much as possible. But on a slate like this, where we've got some Bundy to work with at much, much lower ownership going up against a team that's equally bad, we've got some Logan Webb. You can maybe even talk me into a few Pablo Lopez shares at Coors Field, which is a little nuts. There's some spots to go. So I think I would look to have a lot of Framber, but definitely come in below the field here.
Yep. That's exactly my take. I want the Dylan Bundy. We talked about it. They're against Detroit. I mean, it's like the Spider-Man meme. They're both so bad. Oh my God. Jordan Klein is funny. He's a funny guy. Look at the monitor. You're probably gonna have to rewind. Also, your camera just went blurry. Everything's so blurry.
That's what I was talking about. All of a sudden, everything locked up here. Just as you started laughing, I thought Jordan did something to me, like booted me off the Zoom or something. That was good though. I caught the Wedding Crashers thing. That's solid.
That was pretty good. Look at that. I will say, I look damn good there in a suit. Let's go, Owen Wilson on the top. You're definitely. What is his name in the movie? Vince Vaughn's character. I can't remember, but it doesn't matter.
I just know the character name, but I will.
Holy Shirts and Pants is the name of their fake company that they talk about. Yeah, Holy Shirts and Pants, whatever. We continue on. Paul Blackburn, serviceable real life pitcher, 1.01 WHIP here on a different slate. There wasn't a 6-gamer against Houston. You would have zero interest, but he's 8,200 against any baseball team today. Decent enough leverage score. I'm going to have some shares of him. He's probably the guy I prefer over the Bo Briskys of the world. I guess we have a Coors Field game that has much better pitching in it, but is Paul Blackburn somebody you'd land on at all?
I don't love going to anybody really against this elite Astros lineup, but we've seen lousy pitchers. I mean, Chris Flexen just got them the other day, right? So anybody can get anybody any given day. Blackburn's got just enough talent to be considered here, I think. 19.5% strikeout rate is not very good, but that's what he's got, over 47 2/3. A nice 3.39 xFIP. He's got a stellar 1.7 ERA if you care about ERA. The home run rate is great, 0.54% home run rate. The hard hit at 42.6% is concerning, but he keeps everything down. 4.1 degree average launch angle, 4.4% barrels. As long as he's doing that, he can pitch through this team clean a few times over. Even if he gives up a couple runs, if he finds you a handful of strikeouts, maybe you get there. But the Astros are elite. They're very, very good at avoiding strikeouts, very good at creating runs. They're very good for power. So definitely for every share of Blackburn that you grab here, maybe grab 2 Astros hedge stacks in other lineups. But I do think he's on the table given the leverage score. I do prefer him to the Briskies of the world as well.
All right, everybody, we need to get those likes up. Get us to 150 here right now. Takes 2 seconds. You just go, boop, hit the like button. Again, this is Terry's greatest show of all time. And in order to honor that, in order to appropriately say thank you to Terry, smash the like button for the guy. Now, Vince Vaughn, God, Jordan Klein, he's witty. That's a funny guy over there, just quipping in chat, throwing out these things. What I say?
He's producing the show, making jokes at the same time. He's a real Gary Delabate over there.
I think he wants to go till 10 a.m. is what he wants to do. I think that's what I heard. Also, 8:51 in our make-believe time.
10 a.m. That's going to be what time?
Yeah, again, we gets up early on this end. That's for sure. Us California kids. Real people time. Yeah, California dreaming. No, because we don't sleep. Looking at the offenses here again. Houston, positive leverage. Yes, please. I will take that. Hard to prioritize them today with so many other offenses in unbelievable spots, but that's why you play Houston. It's an afternoon game in Oakland. That's different than a night game in Oakland. Winds blowing out, even though it kind of doesn't always help there in Oakland. 70 degrees, 66 degrees is what we're looking at there. That's decent enough for hitting environment for Oakland. How are you feeling about Houston being a very contrarian stack on today's 6-game slate?
Yeah, I tell you what, they're positively leveraged on that. I think it's a 4-gamer, the afternoon slate on FanDuel as well. So that's a good target on both sites. I think you can definitely get there. Taking a look at the lineup, there is nobody on DK on this Houston team owned over 6.7%, which is what Jordan Alvarez is drawing. On FanDuel, nobody owned over 10%. I think that's a great spot. It's Paul Blackburn. For every reason that I said that he is maybe serviceable, barely on the board, the hard hit rate, the lack of strikeouts, I will happily grab Astros bats here. They're expensive. They're a little bit of a pay up on the DK slate around Jose Altuve and Jordan Alvarez, but everybody else actually is kind of discounted for their talents. Yuli Gurriel at 3,400. I know he struggled so far this season, but he had a little bit of friskiness over the last couple of weeks. The bat's coming to life a little bit. 4,000 for Jeremy Pena, who's proven himself already to be one of the better shortstops in baseball offensively. Chas McCormick, Jose Siri, if they're in the lineup down toward the bottom, there's a lot of ways to put this team together, and they're all very low owned. So you're getting one of the best lineups in baseball with nobody going to them. I'm always happy to do that. They're on that list of teams anytime they're positively leveraged. Sign me up, and particularly against a pitcher like this.
I think Jeremy Pena or Carlos Correa, if you could have one of the two right now, who do you pick?
You'd have to, I mean, if we're talking about real baseball, you'd have to go Pena just for the contract considerations, the team control and all of that, right? You wouldn't.
I mean, yes and no, because there's a part of me that thinks like, Pena, we've seen so many guys have flashes. I mean, Aristides Aquino for a month and a half was the best hitter in baseball. And now I don't know how many people even know who he is to a certain extent. Like,
he's that min price guy.
I was gonna say, I need the 9 hitter for Cincy. There we go. But I think Carlos Correa has a long enough track record where I'm going to give him some leash, but I can tell you right now, I'm not ecstatic about what we're getting out of him, considering that contract feels a little Joe Mauer-ish. Yeah,
I have to think, right?
I think he will.
It's a 1-year option, right?
He's got 2 years, and then it'll be another. Yeah, okay. 2025 option or 2024 option, one of the two.
Okay,
whatever. All I know is we gave him a lot of money.
Well, he wanted that second shot at like, all right, maybe the Yankees or the Mets or the Red Sox or somebody will want me, but
not right now. You don't.
Not if Anthony Volpe works out.
The rich get richer. The rich get richer.
I say a kinder for left out of here.
Well, come on. I mean, Minnesota Twins, great. He was on our team for 2 days. It was incredible. We literally traded for him, had him for 2 days, and traded him to the Yankees.
Yeah, along with Ben Rortvedt and a guy who, I don't know, maybe on his way out of town. Do you think Josh Donaldson's actually hurt, or do you think they're just kind of putting him on the IL, trying to figure out what to do with him now that he's got this whole controversy?
Yeah, I probably thinking
his whole career. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, everybody hates him. Even in Minnesota, there were words, but again, that team was so electric that A lot of things were bypassed over the course of that year, but
yeah.
He's always been a little bit of a prima donna.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was that much of an abrasive personality all this time, but I guess that explains why he's been on 5 teams now.
Yeah. All right. Well, either way, Oakland on the other side, I don't have a single word to talk about. Generally, the most popular pitcher on the slate, I would want to stack up against him. I really can't. I mean, if you wanted to get a share of Liriano, a share of Pinder at 2,500, a share of, I don't know. I have nothing. Who do you have?
Yeah, it's difficult because you're not attacking normal ownership on a normal pitcher who could, I mean, don't get me wrong, Frember could get blown up. It could happen here, but you're talking about a guy with an extreme ground ball rate, a guy who is just very, very good at keeping the ball in the park. So he completely hamstrings any of that home run upside where you're saying, all right, I'll grab 3 hitters here. Maybe I get the guys on base, grab that 3-run home run, and I'm off and running against the guy who's ridiculously highly owned as a pitcher. That's most likely not going to work out here. You're talking about one of the worst lineups in baseball with no real good hitters to speak of in general, and then going up against the guy who keeps the ball on the ground at an elite level. It's just a bad combo. So it's not the spot for me where I'd want to attack. I would probably have no Oakland.
All right. Well, here we go. Last game of the DK slate on this 6-gamer. We'll talk about the KC Cleveland game very quickly because that's just on the 4-game FanDuel slate. I wanted to include that for all you FanDuel folks out there that are playing all 3 slates. Best of luck to you. Godspeed. But last game of the DK slate, pretty important one. Miami, Colorado, 5.8 implied runs on the Miami side, 4.7 here from the Colorado side. And oh man, Pablo Lopez, he's 10-1. If he wasn't 10-1, I feel like he would garner a lot more interest than what he is. But at 5.3%, there's no way that I'm not going to be overweight to that on a 6-game slate. He's the best arm. Everybody loves the word arm talent. We're back to it. But Pablo Lopez, how do you value him on today's slate in a very tough hitting environment?
Yeah, it's a very tough hitting environment where we're going to know that going in. We're going into this one eyes wide open. If you can get Pablo Lopez on any slate at any stadium against any team at 13% leverage or a 13 leverage score on our pitching tool here, you just go to it, particularly when it's on a small slate like this. I don't really care that this is taking place at Coors Field right now. I'll take the fact that he's going up against the lineup that, including their numbers at Coors Field, is 13% worse than average creating runs against right-handed pitching, has a 2.83% home run rate that ranks 14th. They don't strike out a ton. 20.5% is 9th best in baseball, but their ISO is only 141. That's 21st best against right-handed pitching. I think Pablo Lopez is getting really underappreciated by the field. He's a pitcher with a 27% strikeout rate this year over 53 innings, 27% over 102 and 2/3 innings last year, a 3.32 xFIP last year with a 2.63% home run rate, a 2.87 xFIP this year with a 2.42% home run rate. This is a very good pitcher. I get that it's Coors Field. He could absolutely get dinged for some sequencing, for some power. If he puts a couple guys on base, which he doesn't typically do, a 0.96 whip, a 5.3% walk rate, he doesn't give away too many cheapies. So if they're not going to get those free passes where a double is going to absolutely kill him, I'm happy to get to him. I think he can get well over the field. He's only 9,900 and 1.9% owned on FanDuel. That's a spot where if you're at 10%, you're not going to really damage yourself if he gets lit up. And if he goes off, you're going to have a nice little edge over the field. I would be probably looking to be even further ahead of the field than that 10%. Yeah.
Here's the thing. This is what's so ironic about talking about baseball as opposed to NBA. I'd say this can fall into kind of the PGA realm, but even more so, PGA can be more predictable than baseball by a long shot. What I'm saying is that, of course, Pablo Lopez could get murdered in Coors Field. Of course he could. We've seen Kershaw have issues in Coors Field. We've seen incredible, elite, outrageous pitchers, especially guys that don't throw it 100. I mean, Pablo Lopez has a 93 capped out fastball. That's his best pitch. And if there's not movement on it, there's definitely an opportunity for him to get hit up. But we're talking about an elite pitcher at 5% at Coors. I don't know what's going to happen, but all I know is that if I get over the field on that number, I'm probably doing things correctly over a long period of time. And all I'm interested in baseball is making the best lineups for the slate that's in front of me. Not worrying about also, again, people saying, I think he's going to get hard hit. I think he's going to get murdered. He totally could. But how do you know that? Pablo Lopez could also put up 30. And he's the pitcher. If you told me I needed to have one start on a neutral field to save my life on this slate, he's the pitcher that I pick. So Pablo Lopez, best pitcher. Let's fire it up, Terry.
Yeah, best pitcher pitching in the best form. You could maybe argue that, for real baseball sense, is Framber right there with him? Probably, because he does special things in terms of keeping the ball down, but he's not the strikeout pitcher that this guy is. Was Logan Webb just as good as him last year? Yes. Is he as good this year? No. The strikeouts are gone. 18% strikeout rate. Pablo Lopez is easily the best pitcher right now on this slate. You're talking about a slate where all he has to do is outperform Dylan Bundy, Logan Webb, who's not striking anybody out and going against Philly, Ryan Feltner, Kyle Gibson, Nick Martinez. This is not a Cy Young award-winning list of pitchers here. So I really like the spot for Lopez. And guys, you don't worry about being wrong. If you're wrong, so what? Nobody knows. Or, so what? So somebody pulls up your lineup and they're like, oh, this idiot roster Pablo Lopez. Who cares? Who cares if he goes out and gets dinged? And I tell you what, he could go out and get dinged for 4 or 5 runs in this game and still put up the best start of the day based on his strikeout acumen. Like if Logan Webb gives up 4 runs and Pablo Lopez gives up 4 runs, I definitely think Lopez comes out with the higher fantasy score in this situation, right? It's you're only worrying about that 10-run wipeout performance. Otherwise, anything Pablo Lopez does on this slate will be in play.
Well, let's talk about a pitcher that's in play for me on the other side, who's my highest owned pitcher on DraftKings. And I'm trying to just temper expectation here, Terry McBride. But there are many times in your life that you will see a 17.6% leverage score on DK for a pitcher who's projected for 1%. And I'm a psychopath, and I get it. Framber Valdez, 69% ownership. I've still got him at 40%. But I have this cat jumping up in 48% of my lineups going against Miami. Can Miami murder him with their 5.8 implied total, highest on the slate? They absolutely could. But according to our top pitchers tool, and according to everything I'm looking at, where it's a stretched out pitcher against a weak offense that has a couple of spots you got to get through in Jazz Chisholm, we just saw the double dong Jorge Soler spot. I think there's a lot of strikeouts to be had in this Ryan Feltner character. I know it's a very limited sample, two starts basically, but 4.08 expected ERA with a 31.8% strikeout rate. One, do you think the strikeout rate translates into him being stretched out as we go? And 2, are you as insane as me in rostering him as in like any kind of a bulk capacity?
I feel like that price should be lower. 78 is a little high.
But that's why you're getting 1% on him.
Sure, but if that I'd be more comfortable with that if he was in the high 5s, the low 6s, and drawing 8% ownership, right? I think that would be a better spot because of the bats that it buys you. I don't know that you're getting enough of a discount there to make that really, really viable. If he's really that 30% strikeout rate guy, then yeah, that's a nice spot. I don't know that I love it. I'd rather pay the FanDuel price, even 6,700. He's pulling 2.5% ownership over there. Not that I'm going to go to it on FanDuel because I don't trust the depth for the quality start bonus over there from him in this spot, but it's thin on that at that $7,800 price. And the other thing that concerns me a little bit is these Marlins kind of frisky. 6 best in baseball creating runs against right-handed pitching this year at 115 WRC plus, a 7th ranked 167 ISO, an 11th ranked 3.01% home run rate, only strike out 21.9% of the time, ranked 16th in the split against righties. So they're a little bit better than maybe we're giving them credit for here. Discounting John Birdie, who's only had 64 plate appearances up at the top of the lineup, he's sitting at a 144 WRC plus over the course of that. But the guys with significant sample sizes from 2 through 5 have an average WRC plus of 125 this year. So you're talking about some pretty good sequencing, some pretty good run creation in Coors Field going up against an unproven pitcher who's probably a little too high priced. I get it from the leverage perspective, but I might not go quite as crazy as you're going with it.
Okay, well, I'll temper it down. Again, this is an early run, and when you get the range of outcomes, you put in the randomness. I was just basically going off of what we have here projected at Awesemo and then kind of putting in my tweaks based off of batting order. I feel like I'm going to do a lot of him regardless. 7,800. There's only 12 pitchers to basically roster today anyway. 11 if you take off the board that Cubs guy.
Yeah, and you do have to just kind of take those uncomfortable pockets of leverage where you can find them on a slate like this too. So I don't think you're wrong. I just think maybe you went a little far with it. So I do think that the spot is playable. I do think that there is potentially an asset to be had there. I just don't know that I would push it that far over the field with the field where they are. And then just looking at his minor league numbers, it's kind of flawed because there's a lot of small sample across the different years. But going back to the largest sample size was 2019. It's A ball. So, I mean, it's really discountable. 22-year-old in A ball, 119 innings, a 21% strikeout rate that year. And then everything else bounces around. 2021 in Double A after the year off with COVID, 72 2/3, a 26.8% strikeout rate, pitching as a 24-year-old in Double A though. So I would expect he's probably more the 23, 24% strikeout rate type guy than a 30% guy, but we'll see.
Yep. I don't think he's a 30% guy. I'm not saying that. I just think that there's not going to be many spots to get this much leverage on a pitcher who could be very, very good on a small slate where I don't trust 4 pitchers that are basically on it. I don't trust getting to Packy, Knott, and Brisky. Kyle Gibson's okay. Nick Martinez is not my favorite guy to get to. Paul Blackburn against Houston, not my favorite guy to get to. I'm going to take an overweight approach where I at least think strikeouts are viable there. Could he get lit up? Absolutely. And then half my lineups, or a little less than half of my lineups, would be dead. But you got to kind of pick and choose your spots. And if I want to try to play some of the chalkier offenses, the easiest way, get massively overweight to this guy and just play the leverage game. Of course, then you can't roster Miami bats on the other side unless you're an insane person, because, don't play batters against your pitchers on a six game slate. But man, this lineup could still do some major damage. Everybody's popular, especially the likes of Avisel Garcia now, projected cleanup, Jorge Soler. You've got Jesus Sanchez now back in the lineup, and you've got Garrett Cooper. I mean, the top of this entire lineup is absurd. The back half, not my favorite. Joe Wendell, 4,900. What are we doing here? But whatever. Talk to me about the Miami Marlins.
Yeah, I mean, everybody really likes Jazz Chisholm up there, having a nice little start to his season, 7 homers, 6 stolen bases, but he's pulling 39% ownership on that FanDuel slate, 35 on DK. It's a little bit uncomfortable. You're dealing with Coors Field ownership on the Marlins side of things. You're dealing with a lack of ownership on the Rockies side of things, going up against an excellent pitcher in Pablo Lopez, like we talked about. But if I'm grabbing bats, it's kind of the situation that pops up a lot of the time with Coors, where people go a lot more to the visiting team, get overweight to them, and leave the Rockies on the table. So I think if I'm rostering any bats from this game, it's probably going to be more leaning into that Rockies side of things and just taking some headshots against whatever Lopez ownership I came up with. If you're looking to roster some Marlins, it would be around Jazz, it would be around Jorge Soler, maybe a little bit of like Garrett Cooper, Jesus Aguilar in the middle of that lineup, certainly, and Avi Garcia, if he's in the lineup, would definitely be playable here. So yeah, I would look at the WRC plus guys, but those are all the guys that are grabbing mid-teens to 20% ownership on the slate. So I would undercut, but have some.
I'm all in on Miami, says Aaron D. Don't be all in on any
so
team
everybody
on
else.
This slate. I mean, everybody is all in.
Not getting away from the field.
Yeah, let's temper expectations here. But the Colorado side, favorite bats, always CJ Cron, Ryan McMahon starting to join the party to a certain extent. Charlie Blackmon starting to join the party once again. Signs of life are great to see with him. Way under-owned compared to Miami. So give me the Colorado side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody in the mid to low single digits on the DK slate, high single digits to low double digits on the FanDuel slate. Very, very easy to put this team together. They're all very affordable too. Outside of CJ Cron, he's the only expensive bat in the lineup. So I would definitely look to Connor Joe, some Jonathan Daza, Charlie Blackmon, like you mentioned, nice leadoff homer yesterday. I liked this stack yesterday going against Josiah Gray, and they didn't really come through. Now that they're back home in Coors going against Pablo Lopez, most likely going to get shut down by Pablo, I think, here, but I will definitely take out some shares of those guys. Cron, McMahon, even Brendan Rodgers, who I know you hate, I think is a little bit viable, particularly. No, actually, he doesn't have a multi-position second base only on FanDuel, 3,400 still. I think that's viable. Randall Grichuk also sleeping in the back of that lineup. People kind of tend to overlook him. Only 4,200, 2.5% owned on the DK slate. Still some power in that bat. Is 5 home runs on the year. Only a 136 ISO so far, but I think the ISO will come around back up to the 180, 190 range, and he'll be a productive player. So I can definitely get to some under-owned Rockies here.
All right. Well, we're going to get to prize picks here in a second, but first, we're going to do the 1 minute Kansas City Cleveland breakdown. It's only on the 4-gamer on FanDuel. The prize pools are not that good, but I at least wanted to touch on it for the people here. That's why it's there. I don't have the pictures written on the run sheet, Jordan Klein. So this is going to be a super fast breakdown. Jonathan Heasley rhymes with Ron Weasley. 20.6% walk percentage, 11.1% K percentage. Just drop kick me in the face if you roster him. And Zach Plesac on the other side. Both of these pitchers, no. Looking at offenses here, how about you?
Yes, 100% correct. I would not look to either one of these pitchers. 14% strikeout rate for Plesac, 11% for Weasley. Yeah, you can just leave them on the table. You don't need those guys.
Yeah. Vada Kedavra to both of these guys. Shout out
Crucio.
Harry Potter. Oh, look at you go. Did we just become
Harry
best
Potter?
friends? You want to go do karate in the garage? That sounds good to me. Manuel Rivera, MJ Melendez, Sweet Melendez. That was a Melissa Allman
Sweet
Brothers
Melissa?
reference.
Okay,
Sure it
that was a
was.
stretch. I was with you on the Sweet Melissa reference you made the other day. That one was a bit of a stretch.
This was a stretch. This was a Bikram yoga stretch, but Kansas City side, favorite bat to get to.
Probably Sal Perez. If we're going away from the chalk, then probably MJ Melendez. You could throw Bobby Witt into that equation. That would be my preferred 3-man if I'm grabbing bats. If I want to go 5-man, I would probably work Andrew Benintendi in there, and then maybe Carlos Santana from the switch hitter, who I still believe in a little bit, even though he's at 155, 295, 250 with a .095 ISO and 2 home runs. I still think there's something to give in that bat. So that's probably my 5-man.
And if I decide to play FanDuel, my highest owned batter will be Oscar Gonzalez. That is for sure. I'll decide whether or not I want to play this slate in a second. Josh Naylor, but Oscar Gonzalez, just play him every day ending in Y. Jose Ramirez, and then all these other slappies, the Stephen Kwan, Miles Straw, Austin Hedges of the world. No, thank you. How do you feel about Cleveland?
Yeah, I would definitely. I was going to highlight Oscar Gonzalez as well. Picked him up for the Dynasty League. Definitely like the pop in that bat. I missed out on the kid from Atlanta in the bidding, but this kid was sitting on the wire, so I grabbed him. Was way overweight to the field at min price yesterday on FanDuel. I like him again at min price. He's drawing a ton of ownership, 25% ownership in the middle of that lineup. Everybody in this lineup is popular going up against easily on the FanDuel slate, but I would definitely be interested in some Jose Ramirez, some Oscar Gonzalez, and then I think you can build around Ahmed Rosario and Andres Jimenez in that lineup with some Josh Naylor. I don't love Miles Straw, Owen Miller, Stephen Kwan. I kind of prefer the Rosarios and the Jimenezes of the world. These are two guys who were kind of pretty highly regarded prospects coming up in the Mets organization, have had their bumps and their bruises along the way, but Jimenez coming around nicely, a little bit, 4 home runs, 3 stolen bases this year. And Rosario, we've seen that 2020 type talent out of him, or 15-15 type talent out of him before at the major league level. So I'm kind of a believer in those guys. I'll be building in those guys more than the Straws of the world.
Yeah, agreed. I will also be playing at Prize Picks today. I will also be doing a video on demand, talking some Prize Picks every single day, Monday through Friday during the week, doing MLB picks. I'm going to start throwing some other picks from other sports into the mix as well. But I don't know. Prize Picks I've been running pretty pure in the whole Prize Pick streets. So I'm going to continue to do so. If you want to join me, if you want to come watch any of those VODs, check those out. I'll be covering my 3 favorite plays on the Prize Picks board. It's just such a fun site to be playing. And MLB, there are so many offerings to choose from. Total home runs, strikeouts, first inning runs allowed, pitching outs, pitcher fantasy score, hitter fantasy score, earned runs allowed, hits, walks, bases, hits allowed, runs plus RBIs, pitches thrown, and walks allowed. We're talking insane stuff. And I'm going to be breaking it all down for you guys. Check that out later here in the day, covering the afternoon games. But check out Prize Picks. Use promo code Awesemo. That's the most important part of everything that I'm saying. Get that $100 free first match deposit bonus. $100 you put in, you get an extra $100 to play with. And then we have some fun. Plus, that's not all. You'll get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum just by using that promo code Awesemo and signing up for the very first time. For the first time, I am looking in your eyes.
I thought we were going first time for the first time in forever.
For the first time in forever.
There you go.
That's Frozen. Yeah, that's
Frozen.
Too.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I like it. Terry with the Frozen drop. I didn't see that
Harry
coming.
Potter, Frozen. Yeah, I'm all over it.
Yeah.
All over it.
Well, here we go.
Frozen. I got a 7-year-old niece, so Frozen is
look at that.
right in the wheelhouse there.
You're a good human.
Harry Potter, I actually enjoyed back in the day.
Yeah. By the way, we're gonna smash the under 29.5 pitcher fantasy score for David Peterson. Just throwing it out there. We'll get to that one here in a second. But guys, prizepicks.com. I'll have the video up later. Check that out. But most importantly, use promo code Awesemo. Free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up, and $100 first match deposit bonus. What could be better than Do You Like My Sweater? Thank you so much to Prize Picks for their sponsorship of this MLB strategy show that may go for 2 hours, Jordan Klein. It might. No, I'm just kidding. We're gonna kick it into gear here for you, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Baltimore Orioles, 4.4 implied runs. Boston Red Sox, 5.6. Let's start talking the main slate for both DraftKings and FanDuel purposes. Thank God we've made it to that point here. By the way, Garlic batting second in the Twins lineup in the early slate. That's beautiful stuff. But Tyler Wells, yeah, I was going to say, he's going to be popular. 16.1% Tyler Wells K percentage. Rich Hill, 16.7% K percentage on the other side. Man, right off the bat, I don't really want to get to much of either pitcher. How about you?
Yeah, I don't really like the spot for either one of these pitchers. Hill can be frisky from time to time, but a 16.7% strikeout rate, 4.62 xFIP, certainly not reliable. Going up against a Baltimore lineup that has been fairly bad, but now has a lot of quality right-handed bats in it. I expect they're going to come around against lefties at least. They've been better this year against righties. Last year, they were better against lefties. But with all the quality right-handed bats in this lineup now for Baltimore, I'd be surprised if they didn't turn it around against lefties. So I think I'd be looking a little bit more to that side of the equation. That said, I'm not super excited about stacking up that many Orioles because it looks like the field is getting there to at least like a mid-level degree. So for me, kind of a stay away from the pitchers on both sides of this one, I think. Rich Hill not even discounted enough on the DK slate at 7,700 where he'd be a value. I don't really see any need for either one of these pitchers.
So like sociology from Kansas University, that would be a mid-level degree.
I see what you did there. Very nice.
That was next level. Think about that one for a second, Jordan Klein. Think about it. Looking at the other side of this, the Red Sox side is the side everybody wants to talk about. 11.3% ownership share. Once again, the game theory of the Milwaukee-Chicago lineup, we should all keep our fingers and toesies crossed and hope that lineup card does not come out forever. Because against Drew Smyly and Aaron Ashby, I will have all of that game humanly possible if they don't have the lineup out, 30 minutes before lock. I'll just jam that game and live with the result. But Boston is the team that you're going to have the lineup of, and I think is going to be still the third most popular on the slate. But coming down to the wire, we'll see where Milwaukee, Chicago ends up, because otherwise Boston is going to be the over-owned team of this slate as well. How do you feel about the Red Sox top to bottom?
Yeah, I mean, they've been surging a little bit recently. It's definitely a team loaded with some stars through the middle of the lineup and some capable bats like Enrique Hernandez, certainly not a star by any means. He's been a lot more capable over time than his current 205, 270, 347. I expect him to turn things around. That said, while he's struggling, it's kind of weird that they continue to roll him out atop the lineup. But anybody from Rafael Devers, JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, Alex Verdugo, Trevor Story, that whole group, definitely happy to get them in my lineup anytime. That said, all those guys, except for Alex Verdugo, are priced over 5,000 on the DK slate. Devers at 6,000, a little bit difficult to get to. They're easier to get to price-wise on FanDuel, but they're also pulling a lot more ownership over there. So I'll be trying to dance in and out of the ownership, play the leverage game with them a little bit. I expect if the FanDuel numbers stay where they are, I'll be below the field in terms of total stack ownership while still rostering a decent amount of these Red Sox. I don't love this lineup as it performs in the back end. There's a lot of teams where I like getting to the back end of popular stacks, and the Sox don't really offer that with like the Franchi Cordero, Christian Vasquez, Jackie Bradley version of this lineup. So it's not great, but 1 through 6, it definitely plays.
Okay. And we're just going to Baltimore favorite bat from them.
Ryan Mountcastle, probably, maybe Santander. Yeah. Either one of those guys, I guess, is fine. But if I'm stacking them, Cedric Mullins, Mancini, Santander, Hayes, Mountcastle, Rutschman, maybe some Jorge Mateo.
I think Adley gets on the board today.
I like it.
I think he does it. That's my home run call. I'm just going to throw it out there right now. Adley, Rutschman, it's time. It's time that you roosh to the front of the line and be a good hitter again. That'd be fun. No, like that wasn't very
only
funny.
2,600 on that FanDuel slate, pulling 1% ownership in the middle of that lineup is kind of interesting. Again, it's just a spot. People tend to not roster good hitting catchers on FanDuel outside of like Sal Perez. Everybody else, like Will Smith, even from the Dodgers, constantly under-owned. So I think that's always a spot you can look to for FanDuel play. So yeah, maybe he's a little interesting today. All
right. We move on to the Washington Nationals, New York Mets. 3.6 implied runs for the Nationals, 4.9 for the Mets. Eric Fedde, 21.4% K percentage, 1.38 whip. He is not good at throwing baseballs, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, cool. So we're not going to roster him. But David Peterson on the other side, again, this is just kind of a wonky spot for me because I don't really know what to make of him, but he's got a 26.4% ownership going his direction. He's started to put up decent performances now, 6 strikeouts and back-to-back outings. I'm starting to see some positives from him, but it's It's not that I like this Washington offense because I truly don't think top to bottom they're very good. We've seen Riley Adams start to join the fray. Lane Thomas, the most chalky, ridiculous home run yesterday. I can't even with that crap. But I mean, is David Peterson turning a corner? Is he going to be a decent enough pitcher going forward? Because I don't know. He's young enough. He's 26. Shout out Oregon, quack, quack. But I don't feel very good about him long-term as a pitcher. 3.69 expected ERA. Has he turned a corner, and can we expect him to be decent?
I think he was probably more around the other side of that corner last year, 24% strikeout rate, a 3.93 xFIP, inducing an 11.1% swinging. This year, those are down, 10.5% swinging, a 3.87 xFIP is actually a little bit better, but only a 22.4% strikeout rate. I think he will get back to that performance last year and actually maybe improve on it a little bit. I do think there's a little bit to like about the pitcher. He's reasonably effective at keeping the ball in the park despite some premium contact. Last year, 41.8% hard hit with a 9.8% barrel, but a 3.83% home run rate is okay for that contact profile. The xFIP was better than the ERA last year. The xFIP is worse than the ERA this year because his ERA is sitting at 2.16, which is very, very good. But I think based on the swinging strike stuff, based on, something of an ability to keep the ball in the yard, we can probably get there while he's priced in the 82s at the 8,200 range. If he cracks that 9,000 range, I'm probably going to be a lot less interested. But going up against the Nationals lineup that is decidedly bad against left-handed pitching so far this year, you could definitely get away with it. They're 30th in baseball in their ISO, 0.078 ISO, and a 0.71% home run rate against lefties so far. You do have to deal with the is Nelson Cruz still alive question in that lineup when you're throwing a lefty at them. He was formerly ridiculous play every time he's going up against a lefty type for power. So there is that concern there. There's always the Juan Soto concern. Outside of those guys, this team doesn't strike out a ton. 17.2% strikeout rate against lefties is third best in baseball, but they create runs 11% worse than average in the split. There's not a lot to worry about. I do think you can get away with Peterson here.
All right. Well, there we go. I still think shorting 29.5 on FanDuel. I mean, if you're looking at any projections, again, he's going to have to get the quality start in that kind of a capacity in order to hit that number. I don't think the K stuff is all that appealing against this Washington lineup, but maybe I need to reconsider and look back at some of that stuff. Washington, hi, you can roster Juan Soto. Hi, you can roster Nelson Cruz. Lane Thomas, is he going to hit another chalky home run? I don't know. I really hope not. But who stands out to you from Washington?
Yeah, it's mostly around Soto and Cruz. That's going to be my answer to that question all year long. And then if you want to grab some Josh Bell, I don't mind it. 4 home runs this year, only a 116 ISO, but he is creating runs 21% better than average. He is slashing 289, 372, 405. I do think the power will come to life at some point for this kid, but 35.7% hard hit, 5.2% barrel. That's where his power is gone, but he only strikes out 11% of the time. He walks 10.4. So he's good for correlated scoring, good for putting the ball in play. I can get to some of him. The rest of this lineup, I'll take or leave. A little bit of life from Victor Robles over the last couple of days, but not a lot there. I think we kind of know who Victor Robles is at this point in his career. So it's really about the big 3 bats.
All right, let's talk a little game theory, my friends. Milwaukee, Chicago's game 2 of their doubleheader is on the DraftKings slate. And my Lord, Drew Smyly, Aaron Ashby, they don't have the totals out. I think they just added it. Yeah, it was a 10.5 total. But anyway, so the implied runs are basically even split on both sides of this one. You're going to have a lot of rostership going towards the Milwaukee Brewers, like a lot. And I'm hoping that we get some kind of a wonky lineup where we're able to adjust and have some late swap to it. Even the Cubs against Aaron Ashby, who was a prospect that everybody has a lot of interest in, when the wind's blowing out in Wrigley, it doesn't really matter if they give up any type of height on the ball. Aaron Ashby, though, extreme ground ball pitcher, 29.5% hard hit percentage. It's still just a spot where I think you just play a lot of this game if that lineup card comes out late. If it comes out early, you're probably running into a lot of chalk throughout this entire game, especially on the Milwaukee side. But anything that stands out to you with pitchers in this one?
Not really. I do think Ashby's got talent, but I don't love the spot. Like I said, the Wrigley factors going up against the Cubs. Maybe I'll unwind that a little bit because he's really not drawing much ownership. He's only 7,300, 7,200 across the 2 sites. I think I can get over the field on that. It's not that much ownership. 5% on DK, 1% on FanDuel. You're going up against this dismal Cubs lineup. They have performed fairly well against lefties. I do have to give them that. If we're pulling up the numbers, I think it's actually very well against lefties. Yeah. 203 ISO, a 119 WRC plus are both very good numbers against left-handed pitching, but he is a good strikeout pitcher, like you said. And what I like about him is, as you said, he's a ground ball pitcher. 0.8 degree average launch angle in his 34 innings this year. Last year, 0.0 in his 31 2/3, 3.4% barrel rate, 29.5% hard hit, a 1.35% home run rate. I expect he'll be able to temper any power concerns here, and there are plenty of strikeouts for him in that Cubs lineup. So maybe we can squeeze slightly ahead of the field on Ashby. I don't really have interest in Drew Smyly on the other side. No real strikeout rate to speak of over an extended sample going up against the Brewers lineup that is going to be able to pound him for some power here. I don't like that spot as much as I like the other side. Ashby, again, it's more of a, if I need a value option, that might be a guy I click on.
So is there anybody specifically from either side? Ian Happ is the main batter that I know we're going to see in the afternoon, who's not in the lineup. You have like Nelson Velasquez and PJ Higgins and all these guys. Maybe Contreras catches in the next game as opposed to him not catching here in the first game. But for me, is there a specific batter that you can find? I think for me, I'm also projecting in the likes of who am I just blanking on here right now? Andrew McCutchen. Andrew McCutchen not in the lineup here for Milwaukee in the first set of games, so he'll be in the lineup. Who else do you think will end up in the lineup for the second time around?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, McCutchen will be a nice bat to grab against a lefty, but I think he'll probably be fairly popular, especially like you're saying, if we get that lineup early. It's really, I don't love playing the guessing game, and I didn't study who's in the early lineup set quite enough to really answer that from a who played earlier today. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick and take a look. But go along, Luis Urias, Christian Yelich, basically. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm looking for Ian Happ in the Cubs lineup, and I'm looking for Andrew McCutchen. You kind of gave the answer in the windup for the question. Those are really the two key bats that I'm looking for. There is Mike Brasso in the lineup. He is. Brasso's hitting ninth in the afternoon in the early lineup, but they might roll him back out there, and he might be hitting higher up in the lineup against Smyly later on. So maybe that's a bat I look for, a little bit sneaky. Keston Hiura would be a great bat to have in there. You talked about him when we talked about this game for the early slate, but I agree with everything you said about him. I do expect him to come around over time. Nice little start to the season, 5 home runs and 64 plate appearances for him this year. So I'll look for Hiura, some Brasso, and some McCutchen there.
Yeah, we've talked about the Cubs already too. From the early slate, same thing applies here, where they're going to be a little bit lower owned than the Milwaukee side, and you should probably be getting to some of these guys regardless. Ian Happ, though, be on the lookout for that. Jake Swales, yes, Soldier Boy Tellez, that's my guy. I got to say, I've never heard anybody else do that. So maybe I came up with something. Rowdy Tellez, hit me up. We can get you on a show sometime. We can make that happen. Soldier Boy Tellez. It's fun.
I'm sure he's running to the clubhouse phone right now.
Probably not, Terry. Thanks for the sarcasm. We've got Tampa Bay, Texas. I believe they're the next ones up. Yes, they sure are. What?
Before we move on, yes, but to answer your question, I would stack up the Mets against Eric Fede, which we didn't really talk about.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we do want that.
I do want to wind back to that one because I think they're an important stack. They're owned in the single digits on both sites. Outside of Marte on the FanDuel slate, who's at 12%, but you can load up on that stack against Fede. They're efficiently owned in terms of the top stack tool, but I think it's a spot that I'd be looking to get over the field on. I like a lot of those bats, especially going up against a nothing pitcher like Fede.
Soldier Boy Tellez. Yeah, I know it's Tellez, but it's fun to say Tellez. Again, I just kind of take these liberties. It's what I do. Tampa Bay Rays, 4.3 implied runs. Finally out of the trop. Finally not facing a Yankee starter. Texas Rangers 3.7. Otto, which is kind of me doing the Otto Porter joke that I normally do, but whatever. Glenn Otto, 19.7% K percentage, 1.40 whip. No thanks. Drew Rasmussen, though, 23.7% K percentage, sub 1 whip. How are we feeling about him on today's slate against the Rangers?
Yeah, Rasmussen's pretty good pitcher, 23.7% strikeout rate, a 0.98 whip, a 3.11 xFIP, only allowing a 1.73% home run rate on reasonable contact numbers. 8,900 on FanDuel, only 4.8% owned going up against this struggling Rangers lineup. Kind of like that spot. I think that's a little bit interesting. He's drawing a little bit more popularity on the DK slate for a higher price, 10-1. He's drawing 7.1%. But I think that if he was cheaper, if he was at that FanDuel price, let's say, he'd be a lot more popular. So I think that is a nice little sneaky spot. I think he can probably gain some leverage on the field there. And he's going up against the Texas lineup that against righties this season, a 131 ISO sits 24th in baseball, a 24.1% strikeout rate. So there's plenty of Ks on the board for him. I like the spot for Rasmussen here. I think he's a little bit underowned.
All right. And we're talking bats, baby. We talking bats. Tampa Bay side specifically. Wander Franco seems good at baseball. Yandy Diaz. They can always stack up this lineup to make it whatever handedness they're going up against. They're going up against Glenn Otto. I think that kind of is pretty self-explanatory. They're going to get to some of these lefties. How are you feeling about Tampa Bay?
Yeah, definitely. I don't love leadoff Kiermaier if that's what they're doing here. But
No.
He's been frisky though this year. 132 plate appearances. He's got 6 home runs, a 184 ISO, creating runs 5% better than average. He's stolen 3 bases. It's weird. That is not the performance I expected from Kevin Kiermaier, but if he's up there, I would begrudgingly at him just because as a correlation play and a guy who's been performing well, but it's more about the Yandy Diaz, Wander Franco, G-Man Choi, Randy Rosarena, Harold Ramirez. I prefer Ramirez against a lefty with that premium contact profile, but 2,700, I'll take a guy at 50 with a 50.5% hard hit profile at 2,700 against anybody. 2 home runs, a 116 WRC plus for Ramirez. He's only translated it into a 101 ISO, oddly, with 2 home runs from that 50.5% hard hit rate. But I do think it's an interesting bat to stick into the middle of that lineup for cheap and for no popularity whatsoever. If he's in the lineup, you can always grab a Mikey Zunino as well for some home run upside.
And the Rangers found some form, but they're going up against the most expensive pitcher on the slate on DraftKings, probably the best pitcher on the slate on DraftKings, probably the best pitcher overall. Well, no, Spencer Strider is going to be better, but Drew Rasmussen, as it stands right now, more stretched out, more capable of going longer. And therefore, I mean, it's really hard for me on this slate to prioritize Texas Rangers whatsoever. They found some form in Oakland. Corey Seager, Marcus Semien got on the board for the first time all year. That's insane. Because it's May 30th now and he has 1, but we're going for 1. How do you feel about Texas?
Some minor interest, but I do think, like I was saying, Rasmussen is a good enough pitcher that I'm not really looking to throw bats at him. He does a good job keeping the ball in the yard. He does a good job with limiting premium contact. At least he doesn't give up a massive amount of it. Let's say 38% hard hit. That's around league average, 6.6% barrel rate. And it's extended over time. He was just as good in terms of the contact, the home runs last year over a 76 inning sample. So we're dealing with over 100 innings now. I think there's enough there that you can kind of say, yeah, I don't love Texas, but a lot of the field is saying that about this lineup. So maybe I'm looking to grab like a cheap Cole Calhoun home run at 1.6% ownership, 3,600. He's always interesting in a lefty righty. You can grab some Corey Seager. He's low owned under 5%. Mitch Garver, Marcus Semien. There are bats in this lineup that you can get to. If you're rostering a lot of Rasmussen, maybe you do it as a little bit of a hedge stack. It's not my favorite team to grab, but I think you can get there. They're low owned enough and they're still honestly pretty cheap on both sites too, which I like.
All right, 2 more games to go. Smash the like button. We got to get over 150. We've got so many guys watching this show right now. We can't possibly not get over 150 likes. That would be egregious. There it is. If you were playing the Eric Lindquist word game, there it is. You finally had, if you took the over under on 90 minutes till I threw that one, the over hit, congratulations. Cash your plus 1,400 ticket at the window right now. Let's do this. Spencer Strider for the Atlanta Braves, 4.4 implied run total for them, going up against the D-backs at Chase Field. Zach Gallen on the other side, 24.7% K percentage. Both of these pitchers I really, really like. Now, You've been banging the Spencer Strider drum. You have been saying that he needs to be the guy who's their 5th starter. Well, the opportunity has opened itself here. He has a possibility of doing it. We saw him pitch just 46 pitches and put up nearly 20 fantasy points. I think if there was anybody sub 7K that you wanted to roster and you knew you were probably only getting 65 pitches, at least it's a short slate and at least it's Spencer Strider. Talk to the people about your boy.
Yeah, this is my guy. I love the spot here in terms of going up against the Diamondbacks lineup. My one lingering concern is going to be the depth of start, right? He's been a multi-inning reliever out of the pen for them. He's gotten up to in the high 60s, I think was his high pitch count. So maybe we're dealing with like 80 pitches here. I think you can get a nice enough fantasy score out of him against this lineup over 80 pitches, 80 and change pitches. Maybe you don't get that quality start bonus, but at 6,800, you could probably do without it if he finds enough strikeouts even on the FanDuel slate. And if you don't get the massive performance out of like a a Walker Buehler against the Pirates, who we'll get to, which is always going to be a concern here. But Strider, 24 and a third innings out of the pen this season, 38.9% strikeout rate, and inflated 11.6% walk rate. You got to watch out for that. 2.66% xFIP, a 2.22 ERA, has not given up a home run despite a little bit of premium contact when guys are able to make contact. He's kind of a two-pitch pitcher, an elite plus 100+ mile an hour fastball that he'll unleash over time. Like he's going to be throwing just as hard on his last pitch as he is on his first one, and a wipeout breaking ball that just induces a massive amount. 16.8% swinging strike rate is just ridiculous. These are elite numbers for a kid just coming into the majors. So I definitely want to be there on DK at 6,900. At or around the field's 25% ownership, I think is fine. It's good value spot. 6,800 on FanDuel with only 8% of the field on him. I think I'll probably push beyond that even without the quality start.
He's going to throw 2 pitches for his career, and those 2 pitches are both elite. Like he is very good. There are no bells and whistles if he's locating. I will say the walks can get up there 11.6%, and I'm going to have enough Strider where I'm going to have some shares on the other side of it. Just in the event that he's walking guys and keeping the line moving. So that'll be something we talk about in a second. On the other side, Zach Gallen has just been elite this season. 31% hard hit percentage, 311 expected slugging, north of a 24% K percentage, 24.7 to be exact, and limiting walks. I don't really have any concerns about him other than he's going higher owned than the likes of a Spencer Strider, than the likes of a Drew Rasmussen. So I'll take the positive leverage on those two, but Zach Gallen will definitely be in the portfolio for me. How do you feel about him against this Braves team?
Yeah, I think this is kind of an all 4 sides are here. I agree with you. I'll probably grab some Diamondbacks hedge stacks going against any Strider shares that I have. They've been friskier and better than I thought they were against right-handed pitching so far this season. On the Gallen side of things, we've seen worse pitchers rack up a pretty sizable strikeout total against this lineup. They're elite for power on both sides of the ball. 171 ISO, a 3.42% home run rate against righties, ranked 6th and 5th in baseball. They're only at a 101 WRC plus, which is 17th, 1% better than average creating runs against righties. And they are bad for strikeouts. They're dead last in baseball with a 27% strikeout rate. They're an all or nothing swing for the fences type of an organization. I think against a pitcher of Gallen's talent, 24.7% strikeout rate over 44 2/3 this year. Last year, better, 26.6% strikeout rate over 121 1/3. Gallen could definitely find some heavy strikeout numbers here. So I think the ownership is probably, it's a little high at 38%, but on this slate, I think that's probably appropriate for his talent for this matchup. 10-1 on FanDuel, 19.5%. I'd probably come in like around 15, but I wouldn't say anybody's making a mistake if they go up to the field's number for him on FanDuel either.
All right. And on the other side of this, we talked about the offenses. I'm going to have some Diamondback stacks, but in no way are they a priority against Strider for me.
No, yeah, I would be playing more the Strider strikeout side of things, but like I said, they have been a little bit decent in terms of the power of the run creation against righties. So you can grab some stacks. It would be about the obvious guys like the Varshos, Ketel Martes, Christian Walkers, Pavin Smith, maybe a David Peralta share or 2 in there. I'm with you. It's more tepid interest in just kind of hedging any bad Strider performance.
All right, and the last game on the slate, Walker Buehler going up against this Pittsburgh Pirates team. Pittsburgh plus 280. I have a fun fact. Terry McBride, did you know that in Walker Buehler's major league career since 2017, he's never appeared in a game where he wasn't a favorite?
Really?
Never once.
I mean, he's been playing for one of the elite lineups teams in baseball that's going to be typically favored all the time. And he's been one of the better, top 20 pitcher in baseball since he's been in the league. So I guess thinking it through, it's not that shocking, but it is kind of surprising to hear. Yeah, that's a little weird.
Isn't that incredible? I was watching the Dodgers telecast and they talked about it. He's never been an underdog in a single appearance in his Major League Baseball career.
He's elite, man. He's I know that the strikeouts haven't been there this year. He's down at 19.1%, but everything else, kind of like what we were saying about Logan Webb, everything else is right in line with who he's been. 3.81 xFIP this year. He was 3.57 last year. He's actually inducing more swinging strikes this year. He's just not throwing around the zone as much. And if I remember correctly, the last time I looked, he was playing with his pitch mix a little bit. He was throwing, I want to say change up more and his fastball a little bit less. I think he's just experimenting, trying to, find different workable things. And he's been kind of fine. It's just the strikeouts have been gone against this Pittsburgh lineup that I think I would probably play you against if you were on the mound. I'm knocked over the microphone. I'm happy.
You got so excited about me pitching at the big league level. You couldn't contain it.
It's just the idea of being able to roster you against these Pirates. Yeah. Just smack the microphone.
Yeah.
I think you can definitely get there with Walker Buehler. 24% strikeout rate is 24th in baseball, a 120 ISO, an 85 WRC plus against righties. We all know that this Pirates team is bad. We all roster way worse pitchers than Walker Buehler against them. The field is massively on him, 60% on DK, 40% on FanDuel, call it. I'd probably undercut the field just a little bit, but this is a pitcher I go to all the time, so I'll have a ton of Walker Buehler here.
Yep. Against Pittsburgh, not a single share of anything do I want.
From their bats? No,
yeah.
I don't need
not a single thing.
their bats going again. Yeah.
And the
Even
Dodgers
if he doesn't have a great start. I don't expect them to light him up. It's not like they're going to come out and put 12 on him.
Well, and in the 100th minute of this show, we will talk about the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hey, there's flat leverage going there against Zach Thompson. Maybe if you get Mitch Keller, I mean, that could be an old Yeller type situation as well if he ends up getting the long relief, but whatever. Zach Thompson's been pitching longer into games, so it stands to reason, whatever. But I just can't stand not having Dodgers when they're going to be flat owned here. How do you feel about them to round out today's slate?
Yeah, I mean, this is the key team that I kind of had in mind when I was talking earlier about whatever team that was that I didn't like, the bottom and the Red Sox. This is a team I mention it pretty much every time we talk about it. This bottom, the back four in this lineup, the bottom four could be the top four in a lot of teams' lineups, and they never get owned. Even when the top end of the lineup is owned aggressively into like the 20% range, these guys are in single digits. So I'm always looking toward the Edwin Rios, Justin Turner, Cody Bellinger, Gavin Lux part of the lineup. We've got Kevin Pillar in the projected lineup at 2,100, 2,000 from site to site. Maybe there's a little bit of friskiness there. 3 plate appearances so far this season. So we'll see what he's got to offer. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, Will Smith. Everybody knows they can be in anybody's lineup any given day against any pitcher. Against this one, Zach Thompson, absolutely you can load up. If it's Mitch Keller, even more. All the hype on Mitch Keller was apparently completely unwarranted in spring training. He's been as much a disaster as ever. I agree they might need to give him the old Yeller treatment for Mitch Keller and take him behind the barn and shoot him. But if he's in this game, you can load up even more on Dodger stacks.
Terry going out with a bang on This Is Terry's Greatest Show. No question about it. Oh man, Jordan Klein working overtime. How do we pay somebody for overtime who's on salary? I don't know, but we'll find out. Thank you so much, Tim, for producing, hanging out with us today. Whoo boy, 13 games, 6 for a main slate, the 7 of the 3 weird games in the FanDuel slate, whatever. We have lineups to go finish up and make 25 minutes before lock here of the early slate for DraftKings. That's what I'm focused on. Let's go get it done here. But Terry, the blue side hero, any final words for the people as we get out of here?
If Spencer Strider's still on your season-long waiver wire, go pick him up before this start because you ain't going to get him after.
You should already not have him on your season-long waiver wire.
Yeah.
That would be insanity to me. Yeah, whatever. He's been on Dynasty for like 2 years for one guy, and I hate him. So I hope Spencer Strider dies for that. Actually, no, that's not true because I'm going to have lots of him today. He's Jordan Klein. He's awesome. He's Terry McBride. He's awesome. I'm Eric Lindquist. We'll see you later here. Greg and me, MLB Live before lock for the main slate. Catch you guys later.